Hello and welcome to another episode of Starside Chat, a semi-weekly podcast that we do about video games and pop culture. My name is Aaron. With me, as always, is Zach. How's it going, Zach?
Pretty good. Glad to be back. Yeah, we're on a sort of almost every week schedule.
We're getting better at it, I feel like, in the last couple of months.
Yeah, we have gotten better at it, but we've also had some things come up in recent weeks that have made it so we couldn't record every single week. But
speaking of, how was your Easter last week?
Pretty good. I think that was last weekend, and I beat Elden Ring.
Whoa, yes, let's talk about it. You're an Elden Lord now.
I am an Elden Lord. I loved it. I loved the whole game, and it was not as hard as I thought it was going to be. And I think a lot of that has to do with like summons, but also just the fact that you can go spend a lot of time grinding if you want, and so you can basically make yourself super overpowered by the time you like go to actually face any bosses. And so I really didn't struggle that badly with any of the main bosses. I actually found like the side, like non required bosses to be harder than the main story bosses. But yeah, I really liked it. It's for sure my game of the year so far. I was actually kind of bummed that it was over and that I kind of didn't know what to do with myself this last week. I was like, I kind of wish I could still be playing Elden Ring, but I finished it. I guess I could do New Game Plus, but it's not quite the same. Although I hear that you should do New Game Plus, at least to just like basically treat it like a boss rush mode where you just follow the main path and just do nothing but like the main bosses again, because it feels a little bit like a victory lap because you're so much stronger than you were the first time you went through. And so like all these bosses that you struggled with your first time through, you can basically just destroy because you've already seen all their moves, you've already beaten them before, and you have like a really leveled up character with maxed out weapons and summons and all of that. And so you can basically just tear them apart pretty quickly.
Yeah, I'm sure you could one-shot that tree sentinel right out of the gate.
Yeah, probably. I'm not sure. Like, I think they're supposed to, like, get a little bit harder with each, like, New Game Plus, but, like, harder as in, like, the patterns you still know, so, like, it's not harder in that way, but, like, maybe they hit a little bit harder because you probably have more health than you did the first time, and maybe they have a little bit more health, but obviously if you know how to dodge them, you're going to be fine, so...
What was your main build that you settled on, or how many times did you respec?
I respec'd twice, I think. So initially, I started out playing the samurai, and I was going to maintain like the katana, and I was doing like two-hand katana, or not two-handing the Uji katana from the start, and I eventually switched over to the Bloodhound's Fang, which is like it's like a big curved greatsword that's like really good, that also does like bleed damage. And I used that for a while, and then I wanted to just like experiment with two-handing katanas, and that ended up being so much fun that I just switched over to two-handing, or not two-handing, but dual-wielding katanas. And so that's what made me respec the first time, because I wanted to use the Moonveil katana, which is like a magic-based one where you can like, the special move it has allows you to kind of throw out magic damage about 10 feet in front of you, so you can kind of use it from a little bit of range. And so I used that for a long time as my like main build, so it was sort of like an intellect build, but I was using dual katanas. And then I used that all the way up until I fought Melania, and I like tried that fight a handful of times and couldn't get through it because I like she does this like really devastating flurry attack that's like really hard to figure out how to dodge. And I had gotten her into like the second phase of the fight a couple of times and like just didn't time dodges right, and so I would end up dying. And so I was like, okay, well, I hear she's weak to bleed damage, and I did pick up that Rivers of Blood katana, which is what I initially was wanting to like switch to, but I'd just been putting it off, and like honestly, Moonveil is pretty good too, so I didn't feel like I was necessarily that weak for not using Rivers of Blood. But I did switch my build again to a bleed build, which I think that uses Arcane. And so I was using the Rivers of Blood instead, and I destroyed Melania pretty... like, it took me a couple of tries, because again, I like mistimed a dodge or two in the second phase, but like... the actual fight where I beat her went pretty quickly with the Rivers of Blood, just because she is weak to bleed damage, and she also has like low poise. So as you're hitting her, you can like kind of stagger her pretty easily. And so the key that I learned was that you want to go right at her so that you're hitting her a bunch and kind of staggering her and letting the bleed damage do a lot of work, and that will sort of prevent her from like having the time to do her flurry attack, so you don't even have to worry.
Stun locking her.
Yeah, you don't even have to worry about dodging them. And so in the second phase, she basically did two things before it was over, and it was fine. So I got through that pretty easily. And then like the fights towards the end, I thought I was going to have to switch my build again, just because I think the final boss is like not like completely immune to like bleed damage. But it was still like that Rivers of Blood does so much damage anyway that it didn't matter. And I was like, well, I'll just keep using it. It's fine. So I got through that just fine as well. But
do you understand the story of Elden Ring?
Yeah, I'm understanding it more and more because I have watched some lore videos. I think if I had not watched the lore videos and I had not like been kind of watching along with like walkthroughs of different quests that I had been playing through, I probably would not have understood it at all. But yeah, like once I beat the game, I watched like a bunch of lore videos, and I watched like some of the different endings that you can have, because I think there are like 6 different endings that you can get. And
really, I didn't know that.
I chose the Ronnie one, so I have like, or I want to say that's like the best possible one, at least as far as I know. But there is like, people have been talking about how there's kind of been like mistranslations from like the Japanese to like the translation from Japanese to English, so it comes out a little bit differently in English, but I think it's probably the best ending regardless. But yeah, so I enjoyed it a lot. I was a little bit bummed it was over, which I can't remember the last time I played a game and I was like 80 hours in and I thought, man, I would play a lot more of this. I wish it wasn't over.
They are going to do DLC for it, right? Didn't they say that?
Yeah, I think you can pretty much count on there being some sort of DLC coming at some point, which is when I will probably pick it back up again for New Game Plus, just because I have like other stuff I also want to play. I briefly jumped back into Horizon Forbidden West and kind of tried to get my bearings back again in that game. But mostly this week I've been putting some time into Tunic, so we can talk more about that.
Yes.
But yeah, Elden Ring, just to kind of put a cap on it, great game, loved it. It was really good. My first Soulsborne game, and kind of made me want to be more open to Souls-like games in the future.
A 10 out of 10?
I don't know that I would give it a 10 out of 10. It's close, but there are like, it was so buggy when it first came out, and there are like it wasn't buggy for me, it was more like performance issues. Like you go in, you run around the round table hold, and for some reason, like going through certain corridors, it gets like really kind of wonky a little bit. And they still have not worked that out. I'm not sure what the deal is there, but for the most part, it was not too bad an experience for me. But I know on like, especially on PC, there were a lot of problems with that. And also, I just think, I feel like it's hard to give a game that is so like bad about quest design and like just making it clear on what you're even supposed to do in terms of like the quests. Like 100% I would not have completed pretty much any of the quest lines if it was not for a walkthrough. And I feel like if that's the case from your game, it probably doesn't deserve a 10 out of 10. Just, I don't know, maybe that's just me, but I don't know. I feel like they could have made things much more clear, and that's where I go against the people that are like praising it for specifically not having a journal, because I guess they like writing their own journal. But even if you're writing your own journal, like that's not going to give you any sort of indication as to like when somebody's like, well, I guess I'll see you later. And you're like, what does that mean? Like, how am I supposed to find you later? And then
we'll meet again.
Yeah. Like, maybe we'll encounter each other or not. Like, it's an open world game. I've already been to that area that you went to, and I wasn't going to go look there again unless I checked a walkthrough to learn that that's where I was supposed to go. So yeah, they needed to do something, some sort of codex, something. We've talked about that before, but yeah, I think where it's lacking and where it sort of falls short of a perfect 10 out of 10 for me is the quest design and just how unclear the quest steps are, and how because of that it makes following the story and like parsing all of that very difficult. Like more difficult than it should be. Like you should be able to tell a story and make it be clear. So I think it's still a great game. It's probably a 9.5 out of 10, but not a perfect masterpiece as a lot of people would have you believe. But still great, and probably still like easily like a game of the generation contender, like way up there. Probably definitely going to be game of the year unless Starfield ends up being amazing, but even then it's probably not going to convert too many people, or like just because people love the Soulsborne genre so much.
True. Yeah, Starfield is still a big question mark. I guess we'll see down the line.
Do you think I know it's kind of passed you by at this point, but do you think you'll jump back in at all?
I don't know. I keep like so I just watched the Monster Factories that Griffin and Justin put out about Elden Ring, and it did like so I've been watching someone play Elden Ring, and they're pretty far. They just got to like the capital, and I've been enjoying it like kind of vicariously through that person, but watching them go back to the beginning did make me in a weird way kind of nostalgic for the first area, because that's really the only area I experienced firsthand. I don't know. I think it's not impossible that I will at some point play Elden Ring, because I do have it forever. So
I was going to say, the thing that made it work for me was I just needed to follow that one guide that we talked about like way back when, about like going around, not even needing to fight enemies, but like picking up some items that are super useful to get you going. So I did that, and then I like was able to level up a bunch. I made my starting weapon stronger and got like summons to work with, and then I just like made it through a couple of like catacomb bosses and like maybe a world boss, or like I beat that Everjail boss that drops the Bloodhound's Fang. And those guys I even thought was harder than Margit, the like first boss you come across. And really? If you use a summon on him, it just makes it much easier. And it, like clearing some of those bosses early on, that was really what kind of converted me. Just like I didn't expect it to feel so satisfying. Like, you hear people say that, I'm like, yeah, sure, like, but I've beaten bosses in games before, and I didn't think it was going to convert me quite the way it did. But yeah, you kind of, when you're new to it, and like, it seems like so insurmountable at first, because it's like you have such little health, and you have to kind of like work on learning the mechanics enough. And we were talking early on, wondering when it was going to start feeling good. It definitely does. Like, you get to that point eventually. And then it's just a slippery slope from there into obsession.
And speaking of a slippery slope, should we slip into some news?
Yeah, let's do it.
Some Sony news off the top. They've been a little busy this week. Sony invested $1 billion in Epic Games, makers of Fortnite and other things.
Yeah, what do you make of this?
I mean, Fortnite is on everything. Epic is a huge... I mean, they have the Epic Game Store, so... like, they're a juggernaut. I don't really understand. I mean, I guess Sony is into Epic Games, but I can't see Epic being like, yeah, this is great, let's make a bunch of exclusives for PlayStation. Like, I don't feel like that's how they work. Like, they want everything to be on everything. They want everything to be on the Epic Game Store, like PC. So I don't really understand the plot development of this, but I mean,
the Game Informer article that I have linked in our show notes talks about like metaverse development.
Yeah.
I don't know. There again, like, I don't know what that means.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen. I mean, the stuff for the next PlayStation VR looks super promising, and I'm very interested in it. But it's not on shelves yet. But if they want to jack into some sort of metaverse, Epic Games, I mean, they make Unreal. So I guess that's an investment in the Unreal Engine. I don't know.
yeah, they did recently sort of tease their Unreal Engine 5, I guess. So. Yeah. Hard to say what this means going forward, but maybe it is something like when Sony starts, maybe it's just furthering their relationship, so that when more Sony titles come to PC, you may start seeing them more on the Epic Game Store.
Now that's interesting. If they were like, hey, here's because they already put Final Fantasy VII Remake on Steam, but if they started to go away from Steam, and they never put Bloodborne on PC.
Mm-hmm.
And if they were like, hey, you can play Bloodborne, but only on the Epic Game Store, that's interesting. But it seems like more something Epic would have to pay Sony for.
That's more speculation as like maybe a side thing to come out of this, not necessarily the point of it. But I don't know. I'm just trying to read the tea leaves on what's actually happening here.
Sony's making some moves, because to skip ahead a little bit, just to stay in the same vein, there's a big rumor that I don't know if it was confirmed or not, that that PlayStation is buying FromSoft, makers of Elden Ring.
Yeah, these sounded not likely, some of these rumors that we have in here. So we have rumors that PlayStation was going to buy From Software, and that they were possibly buying Kojima Productions. This was sort of a weird thing that came out this last week. In particular with Kojima Productions, because they Sony like updated their website with like a banner that had like these little segmented images of like the main character from a bunch of their like first party studio games. And you can include Death Stranding in there. It is a first party studio game, but Sony does not own Kojima Productions, so they had it in there among the other ones, and that led a lot of people to speculate, oh, does this mean that Sony's buying Kojima Productions? And Kojima like retweeted their like image, and so everybody took that to mean, oh, like he's definitely on board, like this is happening. Sony's buying Kojima Productions. And then he was like, no, Kojima Productions has not been bought, and it's an independent studio and is going to remain an independent studio. So There was a little bit of confusion about that, so I don't think that's real. And then the FromSoft one, I mean, that would be an enormous grab for Sony.
Especially if they're gearing up for, I mean, I'm sure years and years away, but an Elden Ring 2 would sell like gangbusters. Isn't it? If you could only get it on, if you couldn't even get it on PC, if you could only get it on PlayStation, that would be insane.
Yeah, that would be huge. And same with like, you know, if they do Bloodborne 2, I mean, obviously that one might be a PlayStation exclusive regardless, but like also like if they do a Sekiro 2 or if they do anything else with Dark Souls, but they do it exclusively for PlayStation, I mean, regardless of what game or franchise it ends up being, like a FromSoft Soulsborne style game exclusive to Sony is like a big deal. So
for sure. Especially now that it's really, I feel like, broken out into the pop culture, and there's a bunch of people who usually would not be into it are now super into it. It's like prime time.
Yeah, so, I mean, this is not like confirmed news that Sony's buying From Software, but the rumor is out there, and I don't know how credible it is, but it would be a huge get. There was some, wasn't there, this is not in our show notes, but wasn't there a story that came out about like lawmakers or regulators kind of looking into whether they could allow the Microsoft purchase of Activision?
I know that there was like, some kind of antitrust thing, but who knows if that's going to go anywhere. They're probably just looking to line their pockets, those politicians.
True. But like, if that ended up not going through, and then Sony does buy Kojima Productions, it's like a huge flip of the script. In terms of like all of that. But
speaking of nefarious things going on, what's this about Sony and Microsoft putting ads in games?
Nefarious indeed, yeah. So it came out this week that Sony is considering in-game ads for free-to-play titles, and Microsoft has talked about doing something very similar. And they're saying that, so gamesindustry.biz had an article about it talking about how the ads would appear on like billboards inside games, or I don't know, like I can see a future where like you play a round of like Fortnite or Apex Legends, and then in between rounds you have to watch an ad of some sort.
I feel like some of this stuff is already happening. Like I feel like when you're in the waiting zone for Fortnite or Apex Legends, there are like little billboards saying like drink gamer fuel or stuff like that.
Yeah, it's true. I feel like this has been going on for a while already, and it's not necessarily that big a news because you expect there to be sort of product placement in games like this, but maybe they're just like expanding on that and sort of ramping it up a little bit more to help studios making free-to-play games make money outside of make more money outside of like microtransactions.
Yeah. Terrible stuff. We're living in a dystopia.
Which, I mean, I guess, like, would you rather have microtransactions or, like, product placement?
I guess product placement.
I'm trying to decide which I think is the lesser of evils. It probably is product placement.
I mean,
depends on how garbage your microtransactions are. I don't know about you, but
I don't play a ton of free-to-play games, so this doesn't super affect me.
Yeah, I don't either. I did dip my toes into Fortnite a couple of weeks ago, but that was only because they had dropped building, and so I wanted to see what the game was like without it. And I kind of enjoyed it, but also I knew very good and well that I was playing only against bots, and so I was like, well, either they're going to bring back building, and I'm not going to like that, or they're going to start making me play against real players, and it's gonna not be fun to be killed and teabagged by 12-year-olds. So I dropped it like it was hot.
I'm excited about this next story. CD Projekt Red says that they're still working on Cyberpunk 2077 expansions that are going to be on the way, possibly as early as late next year.
Yeah, because you were playing this earlier this year. Did you finish it? I forget.
No, I am about, I think I last stopped at like 76 or maybe 80 hours. And I had pretty much done everything on the map except for story missions. And so I would do a story mission and then more stuff would open up and I would do all that other stuff. And then I would do the next story mission and basically clear the map again. And then I started getting nervous that I was reaching the end, and so I fell off of it a little bit. But at any point, I could jump back in, and I really don't know how close I am to the end, but I am extremely over leveled, and it's been great. I can basically one shot people, and so the combat is super fun for me. And it's more of just like I'm interested to see where the story goes, but I don't want it to end. But maybe I won't have to have it end if there's expansion.
Sounds like my experience with Elden Ring.
Yeah,
I can't.
Similar, I think. Yeah, because I fell off of it for a while, and then I kind of jumped back on, and I was like, "Oh, this is what it is," and I got really into it.
It's a nice feeling to like get 60 to 80 hours into a game and not be like, "Man, I'm ready for this to be over, so I can move on to something else."
It's not like an Ubisoft game where it's just becoming a real chore to finish.
Yeah, or like my top game from last year was Tales of Arise, and even that game, like I was like 60 some hours in, and it just started feeling really grindy, and I was like, I like this game, but I'm ready for it to be over. And it was refreshing to play Elden Ring and not have that feeling when I was getting that late in the game.
Zach, I have an important question for you.
Okay.
Do you care at all about Kingdom Hearts?
I do not. Do you?
I don't, but I do like when things are unexpected and they're revealed. I think we've talked about this previously on the podcast where I watched like probably hours of people reacting to the like launch of the Switch, that one video. I have that song like burned into my brain because that was great. People were like, because there's so many reveals in that little trailer, like, oh, it's portable. Oh, like it used cartridges and two people can play it once. You can put it in a car. And this was similar. I had no idea this was coming out or happening, but people who like Kingdom Hearts like super like Kingdom Hearts, and so to watch people react to this was pretty exciting, even though I don't really care. I know that the plot of Kingdom Hearts is like super inscrutable and difficult to understand. Although it is exciting to me that, I mean, Kingdom Hearts is like Disney, I guess. So
it's like, isn't it sort of like Final Fantasy mixed with Disney?
It's sort of Square stuff as well. But now that Disney owns all things, I mean, there could be a Star Wars level in Kingdom Hearts 4 or like a Marvel level. That. Yeah, it could go insane. And so I'm excited to see clips from this because I'm sure there will be like either a Star Wars or a Marvel thing. And I don't know what that looks like, but I'm sure it'll be interesting to see.
Yeah, it was kind of cool to see, even though I didn't play it and don't really care about Kingdom Hearts, like the last one they did, they like brought Pirates of the Caribbean into it. And I was like, oh, that was kind of cool.
There was a Toys level or a Toy Story level too. So like they were walking around as toys, which looked interesting to me.
Yeah. So yeah, there's a lot of interesting things they could do with it. And a lot of that is because like Disney owns every property, like he said, but
it's true. But you know what they don't own though? Oh, actually, do they? Do they own Mass Effect? It's in some weird way.
I don't think so. Not yet. Hopefully never, but maybe eventually. So yeah, there has been some discussion. There's nothing like super interesting about this, but they did share a little bit of an update on Mass Effect 4. Tentatively and unofficially labeled Mass Effect 4. Or I guess Mass Effect 5, because that would be if you count Andromeda.
I think they're going to try to not count Andromeda.
You're probably right. Well, and also that's not like one of the... I guess it would be like a side one, like not a mainline one.
Interesting.
Because like Mass Effect 1, 2, 3, and then Mass Effect Andromeda, you know what I mean? They basically just said... The next game in the Mass Effect universe is in early development. It's going to be a while before they can talk about anything in detail. but they are excited to show what they've been working on. And I think that is maybe inadvertently an update that they are pretty far on Dragon Age 4. I think is maybe the bigger takeaway there, because we know that they've sort of been like dabbling in like the early development or like pre-production process for Mass Effect 4. So them just confirming that, okay, we're actually like shifting to do some development on this game is like a little bit of an update, but that just tells me that they are very far and almost done with Dragon Age 4.
I wonder if we'll see part of it this summer.
Yeah, did EA, correct me if I'm wrong, they said they were not doing a thing this summer?
I don't remember. They either said that or they haven't said anything, but I don't think they've confirmed anything.
Yeah, I mean, even if they don't do their own like specific EA thing, it might show up as like with somebody else, like with a Sony or Microsoft if they do something. So
yeah.
But yeah, I'm curious about Dragon Age 4 because I liked Inquisition quite a bit. So I would play another Dragon Age if they ever release it.
What's this? I've been watching the trailer for this next thing, Paper Cut Mansion.
Yeah, so Thunderful Games just recently revealed a new game that's coming to Switch and I guess other consoles as well, called Paper Cut Mansion, that is supposed to be kind of like Paper Mario mixed with Luigi's Mansion.
I really like the art style. It's like paper craft.
Yeah, I like the art style. It is, like you say, it looks like everything's made out of paper or cardboard or something like that. And it's got a little bit of a Luigi's Mansion vibe to it. It's sort of isometric. I think it's using procedural generation for its levels. And it seems like maybe the trailer indicates that there's some degree of like cards that you're using for maybe like perks.
Yeah, it's got some sort of card collecting or using aspect.
Yeah, but it is like sort of a third person action game, I think, as well. So you're like doing some hack and slash.
You can roll.
Yeah, and so I don't know. Just the mashup of Paper Mario and Luigi's Mansion is very intriguing to me. So this is supposed to come out later this year on Switch, Steam, PS4, 5, Xbox Series X, and Xbox One. So pretty much everything. I don't know. I just wanted to throw this in there because I saw it this week and I thought it looked really interesting to me. So
I have something that I saw that I thought looked interesting. Have we talked about this on the I've been aware of this game for a while, but I don't know if I've brought it up to you. Haiku the Robot?
It does not sound familiar to me, so tell me about it.
It's got a very cool retro art style, and it is a Metroidvania. It is. I got it became aware of it because I watched a bunch of Hollow Knight content on YouTube, as well as like lore videos and whatnot. A lot of those creators who make like Hollow Knight stuff have been a little starved for content because Silksong is still not out. And so they have branched off, and one of the things that multiple YouTube personalities who mainly do like Metroidvania, Hollow Knight type content have talked about is Haiku the Robot. And it's coming to Steam this next week, and I think I'm going to pick it up. It looks pretty cool. It has a very similar vibe, I think, or not vibe, I should say, but like play style to Hollow Knight, where you can like pogo, like sword pogo off of people, and you can like heal by pressing a button, and then you're like going to waypoint. I mean, it's a Metroidvania, but it's got a really cool art style, and it seems like it's gonna be pretty interesting. So I'm gonna pick this up, I think, and
we should do a video if you do
on it. I will, yeah. We can do a little video on it, but it looks really interesting to me. I really like the art style, and I'm into Metroidvanias now. I'm waiting for Silksong to come out and change my life. But for now, I think this is the closest we're gonna get. It looks super cool, and I'm unfortunately I don't think it's coming to Switch immediately. I would imagine it's going to eventually, but for now, I think it's just coming out on Steam.
Yeah, it definitely seems like the kind of game that will come out in like a year's time on Switch and like other consoles, but it'll like for the first year it'll be like a PC exclusive. So
I'm excited for it though. Other things. Well, so this next thing I was excited for when I read the headline, but now I don't know if I'm super excited. Halo Infinite, I feel like everyone kind of dropped off of because more things came out, but it's still happening. It's still free, the multiplayer at least. And they're kind of rolling into Season 2 in the beginning of May. And that brings a couple different changes. There's going to be some new maps and some new game types. They're adding some like King of the Hills type stuff. There's like a land grab, which is I think like a zone control type thing. The headline though, and the thing that is like catching people's attention is something that they said they're not saying it's a battle royale, but people are like, oh, this is kind of like a battle royale. But as I read it, it's not really what that is. It's called, I think, Last Spartan Standing or something. Yeah, that is what it calls. It's 12 people. It takes place on the 4 biggest maps, and you start out with a very low-level weapon, and then as you get, it's not looting based like a regular battle royale. As you get kills, you get like better weapon drops somehow, and you have everybody starts with 5 lives, and then once you have those 5 lives completed, you're done. So you're basically competing to be the last person standing and leveling up as you kill people. But yeah, I don't know. What do you think about this?
Like there were modes like this in other shooters like before PUBG and like Fortnite Battle Royale was a thing. So it's not exactly a Battle Royale, but it's probably the closest thing to a Battle Royale that you're likely to get in Halo. So I can see where like the same people that like Battle Royales like those games are would probably enjoy a mode like this. So makes sense to add it for sure.
Do you think you'll pick up Halo Infinite again? I still have it installed on my computer, but it's been so long. I mean, I played, I would say maybe like 10 hours of it when it dropped initially, and it was fun, and it was very nostalgic, but I have not picked it up since, I have to say.
Yeah, I'm kind of the same way. Like, I played through the campaign, and I probably spent like a good maybe 20 hours or so in the multiplayer, and I liked it. I had a fun time with it, but I fell off of it like a lot of people just because there was a lot of other things to play, and as much as I like the occasional like first-person multiplayer shooter, I'm less inclined to play those these days. So, I don't know. I didn't stay with it for a long period of time, but I did enjoy what I played of it. And I don't know. I think it is still maybe installed on my computer as well. So,
have you been watching any of the coverage about the Halo TV series that's airing right now on Paramount Plus?
I have not.
It seems bad.
Really?
There was like a joke where, so the first episode happens and he almost immediately takes off his helmet and is just like a guy. And someone made a joke on Twitter like, yeah, by the end of this, he's going to be fully naked. And then like 2 episodes later, he was fully naked.
So he was right. Well,
I can't get a read on like if it is actually super terrible, or like I see these little clips of people reviewing it on TikTok and they seem to be very critical of it. I don't really know anything about Halo lore, but I don't know. I'm never gonna get Paramount Plus, so
yeah, that's the thing for me is like if this were on a service that I was already subscribed to, I would maybe watch a couple episodes, but I'm not gonna like subscribe to an additional streaming service in order to watch it. And I mean, I remember before it actually came out, there were a bunch of like entertainment journalists from like video game websites who probably think they're a lot smarter than they actually are, trying to say that, oh, them not going down the road of the games is like a really wise decision. And I was like, I don't think so. I don't think...
Wait, are they not going down the road of the games?
That's what they said. I mean, this is an article that I think there were 2 articles that basically had the exact same headline that were basically both praising it for not following the games and kind of doing their own thing. And this was like before the show came out. I cannot confirm whether that's true or not because I haven't seen the show, but like I was like, that is not a good idea.
I guess that is a good point, though. I did play like the first part of Halo. I mostly played multiplayer, but I know that the first part of Halo 1, I think everything is actually. I should not talk about this because I have no idea what I'm talking about. I wonder if these are prior to. I guess what I'm saying is I don't know. Do you get Cortana in the first Halo, or do you already have Cortana in the first Halo?
I don't recall.
I don't know
I don't
either.
think I ever actually played through the campaign of the first one, because by the time I got my original Xbox, like Halo 2 had already long been like the beloved multiplayer shooter, and so I played through that one. But I don't recall Halo Combat Evolved very well.
Yeah.
I've never been a huge Halo fan to begin with, so like I'm the wrong person to go to for like story related things on Halo.
I am as well. What about Overwatch though?
I do like Overwatch, and I did not see this. So did you add this, or did I forget about this and I added it?
I added it. Yeah, the beta's happening this week.
That seems pretty cool to me. Maybe I will check this out. It's been a while
You have
since
to
I
sign up
played
for it.
Halo Overwatch.
Yeah, it's weird. It's kind of been I don't want to say forgotten about, but I mean it definitely had its heyday and was very popular for a couple of years, but I don't know, everyone hates Blizzard now. So I read that I want to say like Ubisoft was developing some sort of secret Overwatch clone right now, and everyone was speculating that it's like way too late for that. But maybe this Overwatch 2 coming out will re-spark everyone's interest in like hero shooters.
Who did you say was developing that?
I want to say Ubisoft. It was called like Project Q or something.
Oh, I remember. Yeah, they're working on like a free-to-play shooter that looks like a combination of like Call of Duty and Overwatch.
Yeah, I think it's still in early development, but they're supposedly making an Overwatch style game. So I don't know. I am very curious to see. I feel like Overwatch really captured everyone's imagination, and people were like super into it and super into like the lore and writing fan fiction about it and stuff. And I feel like I really haven't heard about it in like maybe 3 years.
Yeah, it's been a while. Like I know, like I follow at least one streamer who's like dedicated solely to Overwatch, just because every now and then I will get back into that game, and it's nice to have at least one streamer that you can go to. And like he's still every day still streaming Overwatch, so I know it's like people are still into it, I guess, but like I don't know how into it they are. And it's also been quite some time since I heard anything about their esports thing, like the Overwatch League, which I know is a thing. I don't know if that's still going on, but it was kind of a big deal there for a while. But yeah, I feel like they definitely need to launch Overwatch 2 just to bring people back and get some hype for it again. Which I do want to play that. I am kind of excited about Overwatch 2, just because I'm more interested in like the cooperative stuff when it comes to Overwatch. Like these days when I do go back to Overwatch, it's generally to play like whatever cooperative arcade mode that they add during like the special seasonal events. So the fact that Overwatch 2 is going to be more of like a gonna have more co-op stuff, that's interesting to me. But this beta, I think, is specifically for PvP stuff, right?
Yes. Yeah, I think it's still 4v4.
Anyway, I might check it out. We'll see. It has been a while since I played Overwatch, but
I think that's true for everybody.
Yeah. Another rumor that we didn't touch on. I don't think either of us are super excited by this, but like Nintendo is rumored to be adding Game Boy Color, and Game Boy Advance games to Nintendo Online. Cool little thing if you like those classic games, and you'll now be able to play them on Switch. I don't know if that has been confirmed yet, but that's been the rumor that happened this week.
I know they added a ton of Genesis titles to the like expanded.
Nintendo they did add some more Genesis titles,
including like Sonic stuff because Sonic just came out.
Yeah, so things are still happening with Nintendo Online, which is pretty cool.
I will say, if you never played, I watched a full playthrough of this. I didn't actually play it, but I watched a streamer play through the Minish Cap, Zelda Minish Cap.
Oh yeah,
and that seemed pretty fun. So if you have the ability to play free Game Boy games, I bet they would add this Minish Cap. I haven't looked at like the catalog, or I guess this is just a rumor, but
yeah, I don't know that they've.
That's something I would recommend.
I don't know that they've announced anything with this, but yeah, it would be cool. I mean, more stuff added to Nintendo Online is a good thing, as long as it doesn't up the price again. I'm all for it. I'm excited for the day that they add GameCube games to Nintendo Online.
Now that will be. I've never played Wind Waker, and I've always wanted to.
Yeah, that's one that I have also not played, and I've only ever heard like glowing reviews of that game. So,
yeah.
But let's talk about some games that are out this week. I don't know if you got a chance to see any of these, but this is the first one, Shattered: Tale of the Forgotten King. I just saw PlayStation had posted about this on Twitter. This game I think came out last year for Steam, but it's just now getting a console release, so it's out on Switch and PlayStation, and I think maybe Xbox as well or later. It's basically sort of a Souls-like game with an interesting art style that kind of makes me think a little bit of Nier, like Nier Replicant, Nier Automata, and I think this looks pretty cool. Might be one that I will check out at some point. I
do really like the art style.
Yeah, I like the art style, and again, because I just beat Elden Ring, I'm like kind of itching for more like that style of game. And I think this is supposed to be sort of an open world type of a game, so it might be a good one to jump to if you're just finishing up Elden Ring and you're wanting something else like it. Check out Shattered: Tale of the Forgotten King.
Interesting. And then what's this MythForce?
So MythForce is out in early access on the Epic Game Store, and it's basically a roguelite dungeon crawler with an art style like Saturday morning cartoons from the 80s. So like think He-Man and Thundercats and stuff like that. That's basically the art style they're going for. And I think you can play like 3 or 4 different classes. There's like the knight with the shield and the sword or mace, and then like there's a rogue with a bow and arrow, and there's like a mage that has like magic abilities. And yeah, you're basically dungeon crawling, going around taking out enemies and collecting loot, sort of Hades style, where you're getting perks and you're upgrading your weapons and your abilities as you go. And because it's a roguelite, it also has some of that meta progression where each run you'll sort of be able to boost your character's stats as you go. And you can play it single player, or you can play it in co-op. And I think it's procedurally generated, so each run is going to feel a little bit different. Seems kind of interesting. I watched some people play it this week. It is early access. So, and I think the asking price for an early access title is a little bit steep. It's like $30 on the Epic Game Store. And
that is a little steep for me.
I think if this were like $15 to $20, I might even try it myself. But at $30, I don't know that I want to jump in quite yet. But
I agree with that.
I like the art style, and I'm not super into roguelikes, but I don't know. It's a dungeon crawler that is like a first-person game that seems kind of fun.
Yeah, it reminds me of... Oh, man, I'm not going to remember the name of this game, but... let me see if I can find it. There was a game that came out where you played as cute little animals that had a very similar art style to this and was a roguelike. But but you had like guns. It was like kind of a Borderlands style thing because you were constantly collecting different guns. I'm not going to be able to find it. But I played a little bit of that and I really liked it. But this is definitely interesting. It's definitely a unique art style that I have not seen.
Yeah, I like the art style, and I think this would be a lot of fun to play with like a group of friends. I can see that being a fun time. Like Game Informer, I think, did like an hour, 2 hour long stream where there were four people playing in co-op, and it seemed like a pretty good time. But I don't know, maybe wait until either the price comes down or after it's out of early access, because I feel like, I don't know, early access is kind of like proof of concept, and I feel like $30 is like, it's steep. It's a little steep for proof of concept. So I don't know. I still think it looks cool, and it's something to maybe keep an eye on, but we'll see.
Have you been watching anything? We talked briefly before we started recording. You've watched The Batman because it came out on HBO Max. I have not watched it yet. I'm going to watch it tonight. But you said it was pretty good.
Yeah, I liked it. I thought it was pretty good. I don't know like where they're going from here, because like their strategy for the DC Universe movies have been just all over the place.
Well, didn't they say, I think they are finally trying to right the ship. I saw an article maybe last week that was like they're looking to hire someone to be their like mastermind that Marvel has, like the Kevin Feige guy. They're looking for someone like that, and they're looking to completely reboot everything and basically start from zero with like someone guiding the entire franchises. So who knows if Pattinson is even going to be in another Batman movie?
I know.
They may just be wiping it.
Was that they're starting with the Batman, or they just made a one-off the Batman and they're going to now start this new effort?
I think the latter. I think everything is so separated over there.
I don't know, because the higher-ups are finally, not to spoil anything, but the way that it ends definitely leads you to believe that they're working towards another movie.
Really?
Yeah. So I can see them doing like a Batman 2 with Robert Pattinson. I don't know if that's the plan, but they left the door open like in a really big way for that to be the case.
Interesting.
So there's that. But I know like they did the Joker movie with what's-his-face? Joaquin Phoenix, and I don't think he's planned to come back for any more DC movies.
Yeah, that's it. That's it for him, I think.
And then I guess maybe they will recast Superman. And here's the thing, like one of the awkward things about DC, as in comparison to like the MCU, is that people like the dark, grounded take on Batman, and that seems to work really well. And it did in the case of this movie, I think. But that does not work for Superman, as evidenced by the one that they made like a few years ago or whenever that was, like Man of Steel.
Man of Steel.
Yeah, that did not.
Yeah, that was awful.
Whatever they tried to do with that movie did not work. And I don't know. I feel like they need to revert back to like the old Christopher Reeves era, like Superman, like be inspired by that one and not like what Christopher Nolan did with Batman, if you're going to do a Superman movie. But those are like such clashing tones that when you try to combine the two characters in the same movie going up against a villain, and some of that is just like the discrepancy in their abilities as well, that is just like, I don't know how you put them together. I mean, obviously they've done it for years in like comics and cartoons and stuff, but it's a whole different beast when you try to make movies with them. So
yeah, it's gonna be, I really don't know what they're doing. Like, it's promising to me that they are trying to, I feel like Marvel is kind of winding down. They probably don't think that. But,
oh yeah, for sure they don't think they are, but I think everybody else is like, no, you're winding down whether you like it or not.
I have been watching Moon Knight on Disney Plus, and it's fine. But it's also like I'm not. I don't know. The Falcon and Winter Soldier show was not super to my taste for whatever reason. I don't know. It just kind of meandered. WandaVision was good, and I loved the new Spider-Man movie. That was great, and I'm excited to watch the Doctor Strange. But I don't know, man. It took them so long to build up. They had such a nice, concise storyline with the Infinity Stones and stuff. Right now, I feel like they're kind of just scrambling and saying like, "Oh, there's a multiverse," so like that's something you have to deal with. And I don't know if the multiverse plotline is gonna carry forward for the next 10 years like the Infinity Stones did. If that's the case, if they are planning some sort of crazy thing where they keep upping the ante about like crossovers, like the fact that they got Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield, well, that was pretty cool. If they can do stuff like that, if they can continue to do crazy stuff. Actually, now that I'm saying that, I guess I do remember that it seems maybe like the X-Men are in Doctor Strange, so that I would be cool, I guess. But I don't know, man. I don't know if it's like superhero fatigue or something, but
I mean, I've hit that point.
Moon Knight is just okay. I would rate, so far I would rate Moon Knight like a B-.
I've definitely hit that point. Like, I've talked about it on the podcast before where, like, at the conclusion of the Infinity Saga, I've pretty much been consistently feeling like I'm good on superhero movies for a while. Like, I did like the Batman, which is a DC movie instead, and I liked the Spider-Man movie, but, like, I'm not really anticipating any of the other Marvel movies, and I am not going to subscribe to Disney Plus to watch any of their shows. And to be honest, I've heard bad things about most of them. So
I liked WandaVision. WandaVision was solid.
I heard that ends in a bad way.
It ends in a crazy way, because it does turn out that the things that she was doing were not great. Like, it is kind of a bummer what is happening, and there's not really a good resolution to, like, why it occurred, or, I mean, I guess it is just, like, grief or whatever, but I didn't hate it. I thought it was a cool idea, at least, for a storyline to go, like, era by era. What was the other one? There was WandaVision and Falcon and Winter Soldier. Wasn't there another one? It's probably not great that I can't remember.
Did you already say Hawkeye?
Oh, yeah, there was the Hawkeye one. I didn't hate that, actually. It was a little weird, but it was cool. I enjoyed it.
And wasn't there,
Jeremy Renner is an insane guy.
A Loki one as well?
Oh, the Loki one was really good, actually. The Loki one was maybe the best one.
I've heard that, like, Loki and Hawkeye, those shows, those main characters kind of feel a little bit like side characters in their own TV show.
Maybe definitely for the Hawkeye one, because there's a lot of like that Hawkeye one is basically about the girl, but the Loki one I feel like is pretty good, actually. I recommend that Loki one.
Mm-hmm. Either way, I feel similarly to the Marvel TV shows as I do to Halo. Like, maybe if it was on a service I was already subscribed to, I would consider watching some of them, but, like, I'm not going to sub to an additional service to watch them.
Yeah.
So, that's, I don't know. I'm kind of...
Did you watch Severance?
I have not. I should. I want to watch that, but that's another one that's like, don't want to sub to Apple Plus for this. I guess maybe I could marathon through it in like a trial if they have one, but...
Yeah, you definitely could. Are you going to watch anything tomorrow?
Tomorrow? Oh, I might watch... We talked about this before we started recording. A Hong Kong action movie called Raging Fire.
Oh, yes. Yeah, Donnie Yen.
Donnie Yen. I like Donnie Yen. I like a good Hong Kong action flick, and so we were watching the trailer for it before we started recording, and it seems like a crazy action movie that I want to watch. So
I was trying to lead you to say, are you going to watch Barry tomorrow? It premieres tomorrow.
Oh, I forgot about that. Yeah, I will watch that. I like that show.
Yeah. It's going to be exciting. I didn't even realize that, but I saw an ad on TikTok, and it was like an elongated scene from it, and then it was like premiering tomorrow, and I was like, oh, man.
Yeah, I forgot that was coming up. My brother and I were talking about it like a couple of weeks ago, remembering NoHo Hank, because he's hilarious.
Oh,
he's
yeah.
one of my favorite characters from a show, because he's so funny. But yeah, I will definitely watch that.
Do you have any interest in that Russian doll that came out this weekend also?
No, I don't really know what that show is.
The first season was really good, actually. My girlfriend and I watched the entire thing in one sitting. We took breaks, but
you're not allowed to.
It was really good. It was like a Groundhog's Day, and this one is not a Groundhog's Day. This one seems to be a time travel type of situation.
What is that on?
Netflix. It's that Natasha Lyonne girl.
Don't know if I know who that is.
But yeah, that's
I have been. So I talked a little bit about how I started Tunic. I don't know if you've been able to play any more of that.
Not much, or any.
Or any.
But how have you been liking it?
So I started it earlier this week, and I got like as far as getting the sword and the shield, and then I got kind of stuck. I wasn't sure where to go,
yeah.
And then I realized there are these doors. So I looked up a walkthrough, and like one of the reasons I couldn't figure out where to go is because there are these doors that are like, oh, well, I can't interact with that, so I guess I can't go anywhere. And so I kind of like wandered in circles for a long time, not knowing what to do. And I kind of like put it down for a little bit, jumped back into Horizon just to get my bearings in that game again. And then last night I picked up Tunic again. And because I looked up a walkthrough, I was like, what do you do after you find the shield? And they're like, oh, those doors, you're supposed to like do like button inputs on the D-pad that like follow the direction of the arrows on the door, and then the doors open. And I was like, oh, so I could have done this a long time ago and I would have been fine. And so I did that, and so I made a bunch more progress last night. Like I got a lantern. Tunic is like a Zelda meets Souls game, and we've talked about it a little bit about how the combat's not that great, but I really like everything else about it. And
yeah, everything else is great. I just wish the combat was better.
Yeah, and so I got like a bunch of upgrades as well, because I found like a page for those that don't know. You're collecting these pages that you find throughout the world that basically add to like an in-game manual or like strategy guide for the game that kind of tells you like what different items do and what different enemies are like. And so I found a page last night that says that you can actually go to those like campfires or the, like the save points. And if you hit your left bumper that brings up the menu of your inventory, there's like a category of items that you have that you can like use to upgrade your stats. So like your attributes, your health, your defense, and stuff like that. And so I ended up upgrading a whole bunch of stuff, and so that made me stronger, and obviously that progression felt really good. But then I also like got stuck on a boss for a long time, and I was like, this boss is more frustrating than any of the bosses I fought in Elden Ring for some reason. And so I had to look up like a YouTube video of somebody talking about how they beat it, and I was like, oh, okay, I can do that. And so I was maybe just taking the wrong approach to it, and but I figured out how to beat it and made some more progression. So I'm liking it. I'm enjoying it. I do think it's a game that like I will probably fall back on walkthroughs every now and then, kind of the way we got through Metroid, where like I'll explore for a while and I'll make some progression, and then I'll get stuck somewhere and have to refer to a guide to get through it. But yeah, I'm liking it. I think I am gonna play more of it this weekend, because I I don't know. I like really got into it last night, so
I'm excited. I'm excited for. I do maybe want to dive back in. Something that kind of rubbed me the wrong way is like the items you get. I wish that it was more like, I don't know, like if I get an ice wand, I want there to just like always have that ability, you know? Whereas with this, I got like a bottle of freezing potion and then I threw it and then I just didn't have it anymore. And like, am I supposed to buy more of those or farm more of those? I want abilities to last, I guess is what I'm saying. Like what if
you do eventually, I've got those as well. So like you can go to these shops and buy like bombs and like freezing bombs and like some other stuff like that. But you do eventually get magic abilities. The first one I got is like a little freeze thing where you like throw some like ice out in front of you and it'll freeze enemies in place. So it basically achieves the same effect as those like ice bomb things that you got. And then I eventually also found like a wand where I can shoot like little magic, I don't know, things at enemies and deal damage from a distance. But even those, like you have to, unlike your energy that like replenishes if you don't do anything for a second, your magic doesn't really recharge. You have to like pick it up from enemies that you've killed. And not all enemies drop the resource required to regenerate your magic. So I do wish that was the case, but it's not, unfortunately. But I don't know. You think you'll jump back into it?
I want to, just because I do love the art style so much, and I love that conceit of the pages, like explaining things. I love all the little illustrations on it. I just wish I vibed more with the combat, and I just do not. But maybe I just need to progress. I turned on that like easy mode, so maybe I just need to like treat it as an explorer. Yeah, I mean in the what's it called? In the options, you can turn on infinite stamina or invincibility.
Oh, interesting. I did not know that.
And I definitely did that to get through the first boss.
I was gonna say the second boss I fought in the game was this like garden knight of some sort that it didn't look like a knight. It looked like some giant tablet like thing that had like a sword that he did these like big sweeping attacks with, and he could like charge it up and fire it like a rifle. And yeah, I struggled with that boss for a while, and a lot of it was because I kept trying to block, and he just had so many attacks that he would just like spam at me one right after the other that I would always eventually run out of stamina. And of course, if you run out of stamina in this game, you actually take more damage while you have 0 stamina. And so he would just like eventually knock all of my stamina out, and he would just keep hitting me until I died. And I was like, well, there's nothing I can do about that. And so the way I got through it was I watched a video guide, and they were like, yeah, don't block because he'll just break your stamina. You have to like dodge these attacks and like be very slow and deliberate about like when you choose to go in for an attack. And I was like not doing that. So that's how I got through it. But if I knew that there was an option in the menu to just like have unlimited stamina, I mean, I probably could have beat that boss pretty quickly.
You should go for it, I think.
Maybe I will do that.
Yeah, I want to dive back in. Maybe I will. That Death's Door, that crow game was, I feel like maybe, like it was great. And I beat that and really enjoyed it. I definitely got stuck on some bosses, but the combat in that game was much more to my liking. And it, like, just looking at that in Tunic, it seems very similar, but there's something about the Death's Door that just gets it more right for me. And I don't know what it is. Maybe just like the timing, or I'm not sure.
Yeah, it could be that one's a little bit more fast-paced as well with the combat.
Yeah, there's not really any blocking in that one. You kind of are just dodging.
Well, and a weird thing I was noticing with Tunic is there's not, like, most games like this, you can tap the attack button for, like, a light attack, but you can also hold it for, like, a heavy attack or, like, some sort of swirling attack that does, like, an area of effect if you're getting surrounded. There's no such thing like that in this game, so you pretty much just attack at one person at a time,
Yeah.
and you pretty much just tap the button to do the attacks. And I kind of wish it was a little bit more dynamic than that, but maybe I just need to get more items and see how it goes. But I don't know. I was really enjoying it when I played it last night, so I think I will play more of it.
I think that's gonna wrap it up for this week.
Do you have any parting wisdom?
You know what? Spring, I'm just gonna say it has sprung, at least where we're at. It's gonna be 80 degrees today, and that's a welcome change. I would say, we're a video game podcast, but maybe go outside and wander around for a while, because the weather's gonna be nice. Maybe you boot up that old Pokemon Go account and see what's going on there. But yeah, I would say take some time to get some fresh air, because it's actually nice out now, and I'm excited to do that later today.
Yeah, I probably should do that before it storms, because it's supposed to storm later tonight. Mm-hmm. But until it does that, it's actually supposed to be quite nice out. So that might actually be a pretty good idea to just go to a park and walk around the trail for a while.
That's my wisdom for today.
Seems like the best advice maybe you've ever had.
What about eating in your car while you're driving?
That's an unsafe one, but it is it is something that people probably do. So, but yeah, that's gonna do it for this week. Follow us on Instagram, YouTube, and Twitter at Starside Cafe, and subscribe to this podcast on your preferred podcast app, and leave us a review if you happen to be able to do that. And we'll catch you on the next one.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.